G'day NBC Youth, good to see ya. Just thought I would read a story with you today, but first of all I'll give you an overview of what you'll be reading this week. So the first part of the week you'll be reading about Peter, and then chapter 12 finishes, and there's kind of like it switches over to chapter 13, and at chapter 13 the whole book of Acts kind of pivots to mostly be about the Apostle Paul from that point on. Remember the Apostle Paul, he was called Saul back in 9, and he was the guy who was persecuting the church. And then the Lord saved him, visited him, and said, "Why are you persecuting me?" And he became a Christian, and straight away he just started preaching the good news of Jesus. And then chapter 13, it picks up his story, and him and a guy called Barnabas head off on a missionary trip. So you'll read this week about they go to Cyprus, they go to Antioch in Pisidia, they go to Iconium, and then they go to Lystra and blah blah blah, and they just keep going around the place. So you get to read about their missionary trip, and they have some pretty crazy experiences on their mission trip. So look forward to reading that. I hope you do too. I thought what we would do today is I would just read the story of Peter in prison. This is not the first time Peter in prison. It's actually the third time in Acts that he's been in prison. And this is not even the first time that he's been rescued out of prison by an angel. This is the second time that's happened in Acts. So Peter is somebody who goes to jail a lot because he's a Christian, and he's somebody who's rescued by angels a lot because he's preaching the good news of Jesus, and Jesus advocates for that. So we're going to start reading from verse 6 to the end of the story, which is verse 19. And I want you to think about the role that prayer plays in the rescue of Peter from prison, because I think the point of this story is that prayer is powerful and effective. Peter was more locked up than you could possibly ever be. You'll see that description of his chains and everything, but because of the prayer of the church and the power of that prayer, God establishes or makes a way for Peter to be saved. So let's read it together. I'm reading from the ESV version because that's the one that I've got here with me. So sorry if you're using a different translation. Actually, you know what? I'm going to find myself in NIV. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. And this time I have the NIV, which hopefully you're all reading as well. Nothing wrong with the ESV, but I think it's helpful for all reading the same translation. And the NIV is my favorite one. So we're reading from verse 6 of chapter 12. Read along. The night before Herod was to bring him to trial, Peter was asleep between two soldiers bound with two chains, and sentries stood guard at the entrance. Suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared, and a light shone in the cell. He struck Peter on the side and woke him up. "Quick, get up," he said, and the chains fell off Peter's wrists. Then the angel said to him, "Put on your clothes and sandals," and Peter did so. "Wrap your cloak around you and follow me," the angel told him. Peter followed him out of the prison. He had no idea what the angel was doing and what was really happening. He thought that he was seeing a vision. They passed the first and second guards and came to the iron gate leading to the city. It opened for them by itself, and they went through it. When they had walked the length of one street, suddenly the angel left him. Then Peter came to himself and said, "Now I know without a doubt that the Lord has sent his angel and rescued me from Herod's clutches and from everything the Jewish people were hoping would happen." When this had dawned on him, he went to the house of Mary, the mother of John, also called Mark. That's the guy who wrote the Gospel of Mark, where many people had gathered and were praying. Peter knocked at the outer entrance, and a servant named Rhoda came and answered the door. When she recognized Peter's voice, she was overjoyed. She ran back without opening it and exclaimed, "Peter is at the door." "You're out of your mind," they told her. When she kept insisting that it was so, they said, "It must be his angel." But Peter kept on knocking at the door, and when they opened the door, they saw him, and they were astonished. Peter motioned with his hand for them to be quiet, and described how the Lord had brought him out of prison. "Tell James and the other brothers and sisters about this," he said, and then he left for another place. In the morning, there was no small commotion among the soldiers as to what had happened, so what had become of Peter. After Herod had a thorough search for him and did not find him, he cross-examined the guards and ordered that they'd be executed. This is the word of God. Thinking about the power of prayer in this story, I also think it's kind of funny to see how, silly Peter is. If you read through the gospel that Mark writes, Peter is the one who tells Mark what to write, and then Mark writes it down. And so Peter and Mark were good friends, and they're actually hanging out at each other's house in this story. But Peter comes across as a bit of an idiot in the Gospel of Mark, and again here he's coming across as a bit of a duffer. Like, an angel is rescuing him out of prison. This isn't even the first time that this has happened. This is the second time that an angel has rescued Peter out of prison. The first time was back in chapter 5, but still he's clueless as to what's going on. He's got no idea what's happening, and it also emphasizes how much of an escape it was. There was 2 guards, there were 2 chains, there were sentries at the door, there was 1 gate, and then there was another gate, and then the angel walked him down the road. It's like God went to a lot of effort to get Peter out of prison, and we're told right in the middle of it, verse 5. So Peter was kept in prison, but the church was earnestly praying to God for him. And then we see Peter realize, verse 11, that he's been brought out of prison. He says, "Now I know without a doubt that the Lord has sent his angel and rescued me from Herod's clutches and from everything that the Jewish people were hoping would happen." And so God is the one who delivers Peter out of prison because of the power of prayer, so that the good news of Jesus can continue to go forward. And that's why when you get to the end of you get to verse 24 of chapter 12, it said, "The word of God continued to spread and to flourish." And then the story shifts into talking about Paul, and you see the word of God continue to spread and flourish evermore. And hopefully, NBC Youth, as you're reading the word of God this week, you're encouraged to see that God's gospel is unstoppable. It's unstoppable in our lives as well, in our schools, with our friends, in our family. It will show us who Jesus is and that we should be following him. So I encourage you to get into the word this week, and I love you guys. I'll see you on Friday.